You still there, Sandra?
I'm here.
Cool. I think we're doing it.
Great.
Good to hear your voice. Thanks for. I see. What I thought is that if we could record it, then you build it as part of the piece because I was so knocked out by being in the space for your show. I've watched John do probably 30 or 40 interviews, and they're all kind of becoming the same. And yours was just like, I mean, he and I were still talking about it like a week after. We said, you know what, that was special.
So nice to hear. You guys were great, and it was just, that's what I'm trying to do with my show is just make it, comfortable and intriguing and not the same thing over and over again. And got to kind of catch the wave of a conversation. And,
but to do that, I mean, to listen and pick up on that, I mean, even the way you pulled me into it, I thought was so funny and so interesting and so unexpected.
Well, I mean, you were, like, obviously, engaged. You weren't, like, just somebody there as his minder. So, it was, you seemed present, and that was a great opportunity to just segue into it. And then, of course, knowing you were the co-writer made it all make sense.
But again, it's something, I mean, you obviously get doing stuff like that, but what I picked up on is you don't go in with any kind of set of rules. I mean, you just seem like, I mean, I'm sure you do research and all that, you've got people to help you out, but you're just feeling the pulse of the room. I mean, you're just picking up on little cues, and I mean, and that's so refreshing to see.
Thank you.
I mean, am I reading it right? Is that kind of like your...
100%, yes. No, I do not, I really don't, quote unquote, prepare. I mean, Lisa, my producer, has all the, the information there for me, of course, to fall back on. And some people are not as comfortable having a freewheeling conversation. Yeah. And you have to be like a little bit like a psychologist. You have to go, okay, well, this person's, maybe they come from another interview, or maybe something's happened at home, or maybe they're just tired of talking about this project. So how can we reignite their interest in just having a fun conversation?
Well, that's what I wondered. Because, John is very loose and flexible, and I think he did great under that sort of treatment. Do you find sometimes that there are guests that maybe are a bit more rigid or used to a certain sort of complex, that it isn't as free-flowing as yours? Because it is jarring. I mean, compared to the way things today are so micromanaged and the way publicists get involved, everything is so orchestrated. But yours is just, it's very free-form, obviously. Do you find sometimes there are people that can't keep up with it or are so taken aback by it that it takes them a while to warm?
Some people are there surrounded by like I said, their minders who are nervous and want things to go in a certain way. So they're even if they don't say anything, they're sort of like they're hovering, but that doesn't stop me, and that's rare because most people who come on their own, or they may come with one person from the record company or the TV show. But, people do generally want to talk, and they know who I am, and I think they see another side of me in this situation. I'm not, it's not like when I'm on a talk show, or I used to do Letterman, I'd be the wild card, because then that's my job to bring that kind of freewheeling craziness, and I don't have to conduct the interview. But I kind of take elements of both sides of being in that situation, the one who's been interviewed and understands it, and the one who's interviewing or talking and conducting the ceremony. So I try to make it a easy, fun, but intelligent, conversation, and really, like I said, and like you could see, stay in the moment. Like any acting teacher would tell you, if you're not in the moment, you're not going to do a convincing.
Well, you bring it up. I wondered, in terms of your acting, do you bring, how much of that do you bring? I mean, do you feel like you're playing a part in there, or do you feel like it's sort of like liberating enough where you can really be more of a true self? How do you balance your persona on air? I mean, did you look at it in those terms?
I feel like I'm totally myself. I mean, of course, I have my opening monologue, and which is very stream of consciousness and freewheeling. So I try to make that also fun, and I sometimes don't know where it's going, and that's even more fun for me because I like to make it like life. You get together with a friend, and it's not your conversation isn't orchestrated. It's not. You don't know where it's going.
Right.
And if you can get the person on board with you and go on that ride, then you're going to have what looks like an intimate conversation.
What I find interesting, and I wish more people could experience, when you enter the serious sort of beehive up there, it's such a bustling, crazy little pop culture beehive, right? There's a million celebrities. When you get back to your space, though, the mood and the vibe is totally different. It's way more kind of bohemian. Like when you enter your studio space, it's sort of refreshingly devoid of a lot of the other rooms out there that are, you know what I mean? That are a little bit more on edge.
I've done a lot of interviews up there before, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's innervating. It's like kind of freezes you right in your steps, and it's not. It makes you tense and nervous, and you feel like, well, I don't want to just go on autopilot, but I might have to here.
Right.
So I like to approach it in the complete opposite way. I like to make it feel like you are welcome. You know, it's going to be safe. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a little edgy. But above all, it's going to be very, spontaneous and human.
Yeah, really honest. Very, very, very honest, too. It's paying off. You won. Congratulations on your Gracie Award, which is
Thank you.
Terrific. And that was for an episode you did with Chris Stein and Debbie Harry, which was out of the studio, right, on location.
We recorded down in the subway on the M train, which was really fun, and they were game, and it was just sort of crazy. We just had this sort of quintessential New York, conversation with New York people riding on the subway, as most people who live in New York still do. At some point you do ride the subway, and most people who are just kind of relaxed about it, don't worry, nobody bothers you on the subway. I mean,
no, not at all.
The crazy people who bother anybody.
You know what I loved about it, though? It reminded me that what New Yorkers they are. When I first started seeing them, I grew up in New York, and so we'd see them at CBGBs in 1976, 77, right before they weren't big. And you could go see them, and they were, for $2 CBGBs. And they were New Yorkers. And that band came off to me back then as a teenager. As you could talk to them at the bar, and they were very people of the street. You know what I mean? They were artistic, and they were very stark, their personas, but they were New Yorkers. And your piece reminded me of that version of Blondie. We remembered in high school one day we went down to see them play, and there was Debbie was being interviewed out front by local Channel 2. We said, that's it. They're going to leave. This is it. This is it. That's the ticket out. And sure enough, they got signed and they were gone, and they left. But I thought your piece really kind of brought them that same charm that they had early in the day, where they really were authentic New Yorkers like that, And I think that's what you have. You have that ability, I think, to pull it out of people. Again, the real self that people have inside of them.
Well, I think everybody still has that in them. I think sometimes it gets controlled and hammered and beaten out of people to a certain extent. But under the right circumstances and with the right people, it reignites that original spark that makes people remember why they love doing what they do. And that's what I try to do every day when I go in there. It's make it a fresh slate, and not try to emulate what I did the day before or second guess or try to top myself. It's wherever I'm at, I try to grab that and, hone it and mine it for what it is that day. Every day brings a different vibe, and that's what's great about doing something that's sort of meditative, because in radio itself is a meditation. You don't see an audience. You don't really know who's listening. You can't wrap your mind around it.
Right.
Because it's people at home, it's people in their cars, it's people at lunch breaks.
You're right. It's a very esoteric thing when you really break it down.
Yes, it is.
But were you a radio, growing up, were you a radio kid? Was radio something that you would lose yourself in? I mean,
very important to me. Growing up in Michigan, first off, Flint, Michigan, where it was primarily AM radio, and in the early 60s, early to mid 60s, before we moved out to Arizona, you'd listen and you'd hear all of Motown, you'd hear Diana Ross, you'd hear Marvin Gaye, you'd hear the Temptations, and all the others, and it would be you'd sit there and you'd remember what was happening at that moment, and then driving across country, which was, a big deal back in 65.
Sure.
You didn't always have that opportunity. You'd listen to music in different stations in different states, and also back then you'd actually pick up, signals from a whole different part of the country. I don't know how that happened. I guess it's just the way things were, broadcast.
Yeah, there'd be some 50,000 watt antenna somewhere that would
Oklahoma
just spin it out.
or something. So you might hear some crazy. And then by the time we got to Arizona, the music revolution kind of hit in the late 60s, and there was a station there called KDKB. There was this guy named Toad Hall who was kind of a famous DJ. And that was like, when they were playing all the, from Aretha Franklin to Janis Joplin to, the whole sort of revolution in music in the late 60s. Cat Stevens and, so when we were driving around, it was an FM station. So that was like the beginning of a big change. Hold on one second. Sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
Get rid of it. Hold on. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Anyway, so yeah, radio has always been, an important part of my life, and and then moving to LA, and just always having music there. And it's hard in New York because you don't really I don't listen to the radio here because you just don't have it on in the house, because other people are around, and it's like it's disruptive, and people are working. You can't always just and it's something about it's the driving.
Yeah.
It's being out. And, of course, when I was in high school, I was being in my bedroom with my own stereo. You know what I mean? Putting on Joni Mitchell and putting on Carole King and then listening to, to the KDKB and getting turned on to new music and going to, all the record stores and looking through the bins and buying the records. I mean, it was like a destination. And
it was a visceral experience, absolutely. I mean, John and I were talking that day about what it was like to slice open a new album, smell the ink, on the record, and if you get a cut, you cut your finger, moving it along the sleeve, and it was like a physical experience.
It was a tactile experience.
Something else I noticed in the studio that I thought was great was the women that work with you seemed very in tune with you. You wouldn't have to look over too much. If a song was mentioned, if there was some reference, they were right on it. Like they sort of flow with you, and it's nice to sort of watch how they support any thought you might have if you mentioned a song, so that they'll pull that reference up and all of a sudden introduce it into the show. It seems like a very well-oiled, finely tuned.
Yeah, well, and that just happened naturally. When I first started the show, I had a different producer, and then Lisa came on board, and she's been at Sirius in a lot of different, working on a lot of different shows, and she knows her shit, and she's just there. Boom. She is a super pro. And I know that I'll never be in a free fall with her. So that is a luxury. And these young women who are the engineers, it's also fascinating to me because this is like, a career for them. And
I know. And they're
so
kids, they're really young. I mean, they were
they're all super young in their early 20s.
It felt like college radio being in there. That was very
They work
cool.
really hard, long hours, and they're all super solid. And so it's been a great experience.
Well, it's amazing. We as we left that day, I said to John, I said, you know what? She's not making radio. She's making art. That was like an artful experience. And what you made there was like this sonic sculpture, and it's there for a moment, and I know you'll do it the next day and the next. And that's something about craft with that's really hard to do, and you do it, and you make it seem really easy. I know it's just you, but it's remarkable. So thank you for pulling me in that morning. It was a great
you were great. And
by
like
fire.
I could tell you'd be somebody who would have that ability to just step in and talk some good stories. And I do think sometimes an artist like John, that's probably not his favorite thing to do, to try to describe and explain his work, and especially when it's a book, which is like a little it's a little off the beaten path for a musician.
Yeah, and he's modest about it. I know. You're right.
Bring it all together, make it as comfortable and fun, and I think it helped him unwind and relax and be able to access more of what, what's comfortable for him as well.
Well, like I said, we were talking about it days later. It certainly resonated, and that's just a testament to what you do. So for doing that kind of radio, Sandra, thank you very much. It's just a real pleasure to know you're out there, and I'm sure, as time goes on, you'll win plenty more accolades and get all the guests you want and stuff. But at the end of the day, I know that what you're doing it seems so pure of heart. It seems really organic, and, no one's holding a gun to your head. You're there because you seem like you want to do it and you enjoy doing it, and you're just kind of feeling it in there.
Yeah, it's true, and I appreciate that. I'm glad you picked up on it, and it's lovely to talk to you again, and I'm sure we will see each other along the way.
I hope so. I know you're coming out for your awards in June. They're giving it to you, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Do a follow-up piece once you come out.
Yeah. Keep in touch, as I know James mentioned that. So
all right, cool.
We'll stay in touch, and we'll talk again.
All right, thank you, Sandra.
Give my best to John again too.
I will for sure. I'll talk
Thanks
to you soon.
a million, Chris.
Bye-bye. You too.
Bye, honey.